I'm Mark Mercer. I teach philosophy here at St. Mary's University. I have a series of lectures on the university trying to explain this strange place to newcomers and to old hands. Today, I'm going to talk about liberal study and the university. For many students and professors, university is a means to an end. That end might be having the credentials or skills and knowledge needed for a job or a career. It might be earning a living. It might be being educated. It's possible, though, to attend university simply for the sake of engaging in study with others. It's possible simply to enjoy thinking hard about difficult matters and to enjoy thinking hard about them in community with others who are also thinking hard about them. In this lecture, I'll try to describe just what the academic engagement is. Now, of course, that one engages in some activity for the sake of the activity itself doesn't imply that one doesn't also use that activity as a means to some other end. One might enjoy skiing, but go skiing not only to enjoy skiing, but also for exercise or recreation. One might eat not only because the meat is savory and the appetite keen, but also for nutrition or energy or to spend time with one's friends. To engage with the world as a student or a professor can be an end in itself while also being a stepping stone to something else. Unfortunately, few students approach study as something to enjoy for its own sake. Few seem even to understand that study can be an end in itself. For these students, university is about paying dues. It's true that study for its own sake will not be something to everyone's liking, but I'm sure more students would take to it if only they had the right university environment and were invited to try it. So is it possible to go to university for the academic experience of going to university? Is it possible to put that experience at the center of one's concerns? Maybe it's possible to ride the city bus just for the experience of riding the city bus, but few people do, and most of us would laugh at the idea. We want our bus ride to be pleasant, certainly, and if we're happy and none the worse for wear when we get off at our stop, all the much the better. Still, we would have done without the bus ride if it were possible just to be where we wanted to go. Going to university then, following this train of thought, should be pleasant and fun, both in the classroom and in one's social life. But even so, the academic experience of the university, if not the social one, is not to be got on with, not savored. The academic experience is the dues one must pay for a chance at career success or whatever. So that's the view that I think is held by most students and the view I'm going to argue against. I think that one can value just for its own sake the academic experience the university might afford. So going to the university is not like riding the bus. It's not just a means to something else and it's an end in itself. The very best way universities can serve many of their various functions is to put the academic experience right at the center of their concern. But even if I'm wrong on that second point, an academic university is a wonderful thing for those who prize thinking hard about things in community with others. And prizing thinking hard about things is not hard to do. Universities have, from the very beginning, been home to people who love, just for its own sake, thinking hard about difficult matters. Sometimes universities even promote themselves as such places, as institutions in which scholars and students are free to wrestle with the questions. But the tradition of study for its own sake has always been a minority tradition, even at the best universities. The best universities are those whose ethos is generated and sustained by intellectual inquiry for its own sake. Maybe a good way to understand this is to think of an ongoing conversation at a quiet pub. A speaker will offer a thesis and defend it with an argument. Someone will criticize that idea or the argument. Someone else will add another line of defense. The discussion might change slightly or even entirely as the conversation continues. Some people will leave to join other matters, new people will join, a few previous participants will rejoin. All of us in the conversation are attempting to find and articulate the truth about some topic, but it's the quality of the attempt that we admire and the attempt in which we take joy. An intense and open conversation at a quiet pub. That's what a university that values the academic mission for its own sake should feel like. What I'm talking about is sometimes understood under the phrase liberal education. Education, though, suggests a process and an outcome, so that's why I prefer the term liberal study rather than liberal education. I want to describe an institution we can call a university of liberal study, where it's the activity itself that we value, not its outcome. Those who engage in liberal study value their own intellectual and moral autonomy. That is, they are able to think for themselves, at least to an appreciable degree, and they want to think for themselves. As well, they are able to find their own values and set their own goals, and they want to find their own values and to set their own goals and not to have their values and goals assigned by others. They want to believe what they believe on the basis of argument and evidence. They want to be aware of what matters to them, and they want their values to align well with their other values and to form a consistent set. Their values align well when, for instance, if they want to drink another beer, they want to drink another beer. Their values are misaligned when some things that they want or desire are in tension with other things that they want or desire. A person who lacks intellectual and moral autonomy will often order his or her beliefs according to their hopes and fears. They're inclined to believe that which will gain them approval, disinclined to believe that which might get them shamed or excluded. The desire to fit in and to be liked overrides the desire to get it right, or rather, whether believing it will promote their interests become their standard of truth. Those who engage in liberal study within a university community value their own intellectual and moral autonomy, but they also value the intellectual and moral autonomy of others, whether professors or students. They will criticize the ideas and arguments of members of their community, but they won't try to apply any pressure on their fellows to get them to reform their views or values other than the pressures of evidence and argument. Truth or knowledge is the goal of the academic endeavor, but it's the goal of the endeavor just in the way that winning is the goal of the game of hockey. Trying to outscore the other team gives a hockey game its structure and its direction, but it's the playing in itself that the joy of the game resides. Players seek to meet standards of excellence in passing, shooting, playmaking, and checking. In meeting the standards of excellence of their sport, they bring about a well-played hockey game. It is participating in a well-played game that they enjoy and in which they can take pride, even when their side goes down to defeat. The same is true about thinking hard about difficult things. Professors, scholars, researchers, intellectuals, and students engage in reading and thinking, in designing and conducting experiments, in creating surveys, in engaging in lectures and discussions, in writing papers and giving presentations. They seek to meet the standards of excellence in the various activities that make up academic life. In posing a probing question, creating a rich interpretation, or developing a rigorous argument, they attain the physical and intellectual goods of academic endeavor. Playing hockey, to return to that example, is a set of interrelated activities, and so too is engaging in liberal study. Now, practices need institutions if they're to survive and thrive. Hockey has leagues, and liberal study has universities. Leagues and universities are to protect and promote the practices that they house. Their task is to create spaces dedicated to their practices and to supply participants with the resources they need if they are to seek to meet the standards of excellence internal to the practice. While hockey and liberal study take their point from the goods internal to the practices themselves, goods such as a well-played game and a well-conceived and well-run seminar, institutions take their point from making the pursuit of those goods possible. But institutions are liable to corruption. That's because institutions must trade in goods that are external to the practices that they house. Chief among these goods are money, status, and power. An institution committed to the practice that it houses uses the practice to further the ends of that practice. A corrupt institution, on the other hand, uses the money, power, and status that it acquires for other things. It might use the practice to collect more money, more power, more status, so it might distribute them among the institution's bureaucracy. Or it might use the practice to further the goals of, say, justice or social well-being. Now, generating and criticizing understandings of things is a mission spread over the university. Chemists, historians, philosophers, for instance, are all engaged in it, but it is only one form that the academic mission takes. Another form is generating and criticizing interpretations of things. In discussing a poem or a novel, academics are not seeking the truth about anything. Instead, they compare and contrast readings of the poem or the novel, thereby trying to find those readings by which the work is most powerful, or trying thereby to explain why the poem or the novel is flat or derivative. A third form the academic mission takes is articulating evaluations of things, primarily ethical and aesthetic evaluations. The task of the institution of a university then, at least when that institution values liberal study, is to provide members of the academic community with opportunities to reflect on matters of intellectual interest or concern to those members. Their task is to support the core academic experience of following the arguments where they lead and weighing conflicting interpretations and arguments against each other. Those who engage in the activities of liberal study, who engage in those activities for the sake of the engagement, who love study for its own sake, are people who wish to live a certain kind of life. But living this life is not something one can want prior to engaging in liberal study, for prior to the engagement, one can have very little idea of what that life is like. A student then must first simply devote him or herself to study pretty much on a gamble, just to find out whether he likes it or likes it well enough to continue with it. We professors might hope to instill in our students a taste for study or to awaken their passion for it, but that's not our task. Indeed, if we set out to change our students to create in them commitment to the life of the mind, we likely will not succeed. For one, we'll be using means other than argument, evidence, and example to affect the thoughts and emotions of our students. And we may not do that consistently with our principles, for that's a form of manipulation. We must instead simply engage in the activities of liberal study, thinking hard about things and trying to understand or interpret or appraise those things. Our students have our example and their ability to choose to adopt that example. Maybe they will follow us. Now, of course, students need to make good decisions about where, when, and what to study. They should make their decisions not only on the basis of their tastes and talents, but also in light of an accurate understanding of the financial and other costs of being committed to study, and of the external rewards that are gained when one has skills, knowledge, and credentials. But once a student has decided to pursue liberal study, he or she should pursue it in the spirit of liberal study. A student is wise to enroll in the programs and take the courses that are best to take in that pursuit, and to read, write, and say what serves his education best. But students committed to liberal study will care little for grades, though they will certainly take comments on their work and criticisms of it seriously. They will do well to engage with others who pursue study for its own sake. The more of us, students and professors, who work under an attitude of commitment to liberal study, the more fun we will have, and though this isn't the point, the better educated we will become.